We got 5 minutes on the clock. What is your name? What is your podcast show?
How's it going, my friends? Name's Dom Brightmon, and I'm the host of the Going North podcast.
The Going North podcast. What the heck is the Going North podcast about?
The Going North podcast is a show that is geared towards turning listeners into authors. Authors are interviewed all across the globe. Youngest author ever on the show is 14 years old, who wrote a bunch of novels that turned her bullying experience into creativity, all the way to a therapist in her early 80s who wrote a book from triggered to tranquil, who had a whole bunch of experience. So, bridging the gaps, bridging stories, helping folks to join the business of immortality known as authorship.
Getting people to join the business of immortality, also known as authorship. That's really cool. Talk to us about the launch. You said you launched it a few years ago and you experienced some things that I bet if you went backwards, you would do it differently. Talk to us about the podcast launch.
Yes, the podcast launch for the show was definitely rough because I had this grand idea called 50 Days of Inspiration. Because originally I needed a way to promote my first ever book, Going North Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself, hence the podcast having the same name. And the name of the game was a new inspirational quote will go up once every day. Then on day 50, the podcast would launch. Well, day 50 showed up, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing because my RSS feed was not ready. And I still had interviews in the can that still needed to be edited because I wanted to have at least 5 episodes ready to go. I had the first episode that was trash on audio quality. I had to outsource that, and 4 other episodes I still had to learn my way through editing myself. So it was a delay about a good 2 weeks later where I just went ahead and put everything I had on SoundCloud. It was September of 2017. And the thing about launching on SoundCloud before moving over to Libsyn was the fact that once it got on Libsyn, then Apple Podcasts and the other apps picked it up to where it boosted into the stratosphere because basically, even though at launch I had 6 episodes, according to iTunes, I had at least 11 episodes. And that's how messy the launch was. So, yeah, just having that time of ignorance, well, not ignorance, but just that time of not knowing but still committing to the goal. And the thing is, my show is interview based with authors, so you got other people counting on you. Like if you're really willing to launch something, you have to tell people about it. Like if you want a higher level of accountability in your life, you got to tell people about it. If you want to advance further in life, tell people that you want to advance. It's like, yes, keep some plans under wraps, but still give folks a sliver of something that you plan on doing, so that way when folks are come back and ask you about it later to be like, oh darn, maybe I should get going on this thing. And that's really what helped me, is because when you invite others into your own advancement, you definitely going to make that happen, because a dead line can put a dead end on procrastination. But if you want to take it to a higher level, invite others to hold you accountable.
Man, I absolutely love that because a lot of times as we're building stuff, we're like, I'll tell people when it's launched. I'll tell people once I've already perfected it. And the problem is it's never perfect. So sometimes you got to go, I'm doing this on this date. I'm going to give it a shot. What kept you going after the rough patch of launching? Because like you might look at it and go, ah, man, screw this. I'm out. Here we are years into your podcast show. You're still going. What kept you going?
Multiple reasons. I'd have to say the personal growth is definitely one of them. The advice I've got from the authors is great. The networking opportunities, I believe Dave Jackson dropped a great quote that if you want to build your influence, have an interview based podcast. If you want to grow your body of knowledge, do a solo podcast. And also just the wonderful opportunities to connect with other wonderful folks. So those are probably the three major reasons: just to build my influence, connect with other people, and just the self-development aspect of it.
Yeah. What was your favorite memory of podcasting all these years?
I'd have to say when the recording button is off, because those conversations are usually sometimes better than the recording conversations.
If we shared everything that happened in the green room, we would probably have so many laughs, but might get ourselves into some trouble. But so with that, uh, I love you, and I'm so glad you came on the show today, helping people jump into the business of immortality. What is the name of your podcast show, and where can people find you?
Yes, you can check out the Going North podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. We're on all of them and even has its own website, goingnorthpodcast.com. So Dom Brightmon here, host of the Going North podcast. And if you're listening right now, you want to have a book, listen to the podcast, you'll be inspired to do your own.
All in 5 minutes or less. Guys, we love you, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.